one definition of hospitality is to make space. So friend, could you scoot over and make space at your kitchen table to share a meal? Expand your heart to make space for a new relationship. Listen instead of talking, making space for others to be understood. This season, we'll learn from the ultimate host, Jesus Christ, and how he extended the welcome of the gospel to make space for all kinds of people. Hey friends, we're coming back to you to talk about this idea of scooting over, imitating the hospitality of Christ. And I'm just having a great time with Susan. Thanks so much for coming along for this ride.
Oh, I love doing this. It's so fun. It's like, sorry, everybody, I have to go talk to Karen.
Oh, well, I tell you what, I actually told somebody yesterday about this series. I said, my friend just bleeds this. So it's just so easy to talk to you about it because it's so much a part of your everyday life. And today, I'd love to think just about the ways, some of the practical ways that we just come alongside people. Sometimes we think it has to be something big, but, when people, like I have company coming tomorrow to my house, what are some of the little things that we do just to make people feel like they're home, like they can exhale? So how about you?
Well, okay. I do realize that part of what we've been saying is your house doesn't have to be clean or, just let them come in and fold laundry with you. And that's true. Yet, I will say, if you're having spend the night company, a clean towel goes a long way with me. I'm just saying, if I'm guest, this is what makes me, you picture what makes you exhale. And then you kind of go, well, what would I need to really relax? Like I want my guests to relax. And that might be what I do is I keep back white towels that only come out when company comes out. They don't get the one with the hole in it and the stains like I'm using or my child is using or my husband. No, they have the special towels and I replace them. And then you're really good at this, Karen. I love like a little happy or a little something. I don't know, just to say you're seen. Now, I don't do that with all spend the night company because I'm just glad there are clean sheets on the bed. But I just think having like their favorite drink in the house. Like if they love Diet Cokes, let's have some Diet Cokes or, I don't know. And then I just think for someone to really relax, if they're like me, is privacy. Not to feel the pressure to be like the entertaining guest. Like if you're tired and exhausted and need rest and your friend is letting you come rest, just let them be. Don't feel like you've got to entertain them. Just let them be so they can just be themselves.
That's right.
What about you?
Scoot over and give them some space. That's right. And let them have a little bit of a break. This is like seriously what I'm going to do today. So my company is coming tomorrow. And so I got the sheets washed yesterday. I'm with you on the fluffy towels. And I'm not necessarily endorsing a certain place, but I am going today to Trader Joe's.
Yes.
And the center aisle in a Trader Joe's is your hospitality best friend because it's chocolate covered everything, right? Whatever, there are little treats that you can just get. Mm-hmm. And so, again, some fun little drinks, like the people that are coming are ginger ale people. And so I have some cherry ginger ale and some regular ginger ale that's already in the fridge getting cold for them. But having a bottle of water, those kind of things, they go a long way. And the last thing that I try to do is I always put like a little cozy little blanket on the end of the bed, because sometimes you just, like you said, want to come take a nap. You don't really want to get in the bed. Yeah. You just want to kind of cuddle up and just read a book or something like that. And so, no, I'm not a 5-star, hotel, but we can do what we can do. And here's why. It's not to show off. Mm-mm. It's to say, I love you so much that I want you to feel loved. I want you to feel like you're part of our family. You're at home. And really where we're going today is what it looks like for people to be seen. Yeah. And because when they walk in our door, we don't really know what's all that's going on in their life, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So they may be coming off something that's really, really hard. In fact, when I have people that come to our house especially ministry friends that they may have been carrying a lot.
Yes.
And they don't have anyone in their world that they can talk to. And then they come to our house, we have dinner, we're sitting around, maybe having a drink or a cup of coffee. And then they drop the water line and they say, I can't tell anybody else where I am about this, but I need a safe place to talk about how somebody hurt me or, a conflict in our, and so I don't know what it will look like for you, but like, after they do that, they might want the chocolate. They might need the chocolate. Yeah. So anyway, well, today we're going to talk about how Jesus sees two different women from two different generations, and two women that probably most people we know they weren't seeing them. They weren't seeing their real need. And in fact, they were really kind of making them feel small in their different kinds of struggles. And so maybe there are people like that in our life too. So we're going to look at Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 43, two different women who were suffering. We said on one of our previous episodes that the word hospitality also has the root for hospital. And so we see Jesus ministering to weak and wounded, really people who are suffering profoundly, even unto death. And so, Susan, let's go ahead and read that. I'll start in verse 21 and then you can pick up. And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him as he was beside the sea. And then came one of the rulers of the synagogue. Jairus was his name. And seeing him, he fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." And he went with him, and the great crowd followed him, and the throng about him. And there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd, and touched his garment. For she said, "If I touch even his garments, I will be made well." And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing around you, and yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" And why? Why did
I'm just laughing at these people.
I know. And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." Now, Susan, read what happened to the other young woman.
While he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid, only believe." And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw a tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with him and entered where the child was lying. Then he took the child by the hand and said, okay, I'm going to butcher this, Talitha Kumi, which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said that something should be given to her to eat.
Which is so...
I love that, Matt.
It's time to eat. Yes. Okay. So we see two different women.
Yeah.
Two different generations, two women who are suffering. And I think the first thing that just strikes me is that part of extending hospitality, Jesus is modeling. We listen, He's looking and he's moving towards people, right? And he is, and actually, again, it's not the way we expect it. What else kind of strikes you here?
Okay, I've never noticed this before until I was reading it. For the one girl was 12. The woman had been suffering her 12 years. Like, that's just something I never realized. And I don't know why that strikes me, except it just shows, like, one felt like that just shows you how chronic the older woman's situation was. It was such a chronic illness, which has its own hard parts. Like, if you've ever struggled with chronic pain or, just so many chronic things that people have, or even chronic depression, or just, I don't know, if you've lost an arm before, or you have lost an arm, and then you have this other girl in the prime of like 12 then. Isn't that kind of like she's probably about to get engaged? I mean, isn't that kind of Mary's generation? Maybe not quite there, but I bet her, and then her daddy calls her his little, like, my little daughter. Like, we're like, oh, daddy, she's going to always be your little girl, but you just see the acute crisis in that home. So it's this struggle that has a weariness to it, to this just sudden, it feels to me sudden. Maybe she had been sick too. I don't know. But I don't know why that jumped out at me, and just to go, isn't that interesting? Just noticed it.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't notice that, but you could say, how long has this woman suffered? As long as she's been alive. Like, exactly. In other words, because sometimes it's hard for us to measure time, and especially when somebody has chronic illness. And again, one is externally obvious, and the other is a silent, internal kind of shameful, ailment that this woman has. And so I think, often when we sit in a small group with people and we say, how are you doing? It's easy to say fine. Yeah. Because it's too hard to explain. For 12 years, I've been suffering with this bleeding. Like, you can't even be inside community because you're unclean.
Yeah. I was going to say, doesn't this, like, she obviously is an honest woman, because she confesses immediately when everybody's going, who touched Jesus? She stood, so that shows me her character, but she was that desperate to make someone unclean to get healed. Like, that was desperate. And she had no opportunity for people to even ask her how she was, because she couldn't be around people unless they were bleeding too, I guess. So this is a tough life this woman has. But yeah, nobody's going to see her. Nobody.
Yeah. And so nobody's really helping her. Mm-mm. And yet the dad is an advocate for his daughter, but he has to wait on Jesus' timing.
The worst.
And so it's interesting, because when we have the opportunity to be a helper, to truly be, I love the idea of being an easer of, that really is that strong relational word that, describes God, and also woman. It's not good for people to be alone. We need helpers, to come alongside. And yet when we're having to come alongside and advocate for other people, we have to be on God's timeline when we're helping somebody. But sometimes we just want to wrap it up and tie it in a bow,
Yep. We kind of have to remember who's the boss in the situation, because when we're helping, I mean, there are a lot of examples of all sorts of ways we have to remember, but I have to put, like, for instance, if I'm helping someone and it looks hopeless, or it's not like this person is suffering acutely, like, oh my goodness, can't God provide a house? Can't he provide a doctor? Can't he provide a child? Like, all the things. And you go, I know you can, but why aren't you? And it's just exactly how that tension was in the crowd, because, Jesus, quote unquote, missed the chance, and we think we're the boss and we know best, and we want to do it when we want to do it, because we don't want to watch somebody suffer. And we don't have God's economy in mind of he is purifying, he is building trust, he's building a faith muscle, not only in the person we're helping, but in us.
Yeah. We might not laugh at Jesus like they did in the passage.
No, I hope not.
You might get frustrated with him that he's not on our timeline. And I think that's, when we come alongside people, now think in terms of the first woman, the woman with the bloody discharge, the silent sufferers. There are lots of people that are in our life that are silently suffering. It could be mental illness. It could be grief. It could be just kind of like chronic depression, like you said, loneliness. These things aren't on a timeline, right?
No. I'll name a couple of more. Yeah. Financial strain. And you are presenting like you're just one of the girls and they're ordering their lattes and you're like, I'll have water, please. Or you don't go because it's so awkward for you. And then you lose community. Or infertility is a big one. I feel like nobody knows because you really don't want to talk about it. But the worst is when everybody's like, when are you going to start having those babies? And you're like, oh my goodness. When I hear somebody say that, I'm like, you have not read the book yet of do not ask that question. But just things like that. Be in an unhealthy place, like with your weight or with your eating or with any kind of health thing that is no one's business, but you're suffering. I don't know. There's a lot of social cages we're in.
Yeah, it's so true. And we look into the story, and I like what you said. Desperate people do desperate things. And I also love the quote that Martin Luther said, all prayer is desperate prayer. Like if you really know your true condition, then you realize as you reach towards Jesus, especially for us in prayer, it shows our true need. Like we are not going to live without him. Yeah. Like it's life or death, right? Yeah. And so she actually takes this huge step of faith, and we see Jesus, commending her, that she, for her faith, that she stepped out. And the same thing in the second story about how gentle Jesus is. Talitha, little girl, come to me. Yeah. And then he meets her immediate need, which is let's get her something to eat. Okay.
Yep. Get those goldfish crackers out, folks. Well, and the other thing about the first woman, she had used all her resources. She had done everything she could with the knowledge of the medical world at that point. It is not for lack of trying. It just, there was one person that could hit this desperate need. And sometimes I have to, unfortunately, try all my tricks until I go, oh, why don't I start with God?
That's right. And like John the Baptist said, I'm not the Christ. Yep. And when I try to be the Christ and try to be the Savior and the rescuer and the healer and all the things that we're talking about today, we have an opportunity to take people to Christ. And, I think of another story. I often love to share the story about what I call the Matt friends who take their friend to Jesus.
I love that.
And how, they saw that their friend was paralyzed. They saw a barrier like we talked about the other week. And so they cut a hole in the roof and they lowered their friend to Jesus. We don't even know their names, but we know that they inherently knew they could not help their friend.
That's right.
So as a helper, that's number one. You got to know what you can do to help, but there's lots of other things you cannot do.
That's right.
And understand your limitations. And so we take people to the one who can help. So we take people to Christ. And that's part of, I think at the heart of hospitality really is saying, how do we extend an invitation so that people can encounter the living Christ, whether it's around a meal or just because when they're suffering, sitting with them, advocating for them, waiting with them in a waiting room when we're like, maybe it is a physical waiting room at a hospital, but maybe it's just week after week, they come back to you and they say, you know what, this isn't fixed. And instead of like putting a platitude on it, slapping a Band-Aid on it, you wait with hope. You carry hope for that person.
That's right. That's exactly right. Oh, yeah. I mean, have you ever been so discouraged and just a word, it's not someone changed your circumstances, but they just reminded you of Christ and his promises and even bore witness to how he's done that in their lives and their lives before. I mean, just I can just have a different heartbeat after those conversations. So I can face circumstances, not because somebody waved a magic wand, but because they showed me Jesus and how I can trust him, and he loves me. So he's trustworthy. It's just really hard. It's so hard not to just want to fix it for him. And it's hard for you not want somebody to fix it for you too.
Yeah. Remember, I don't know if you remember, we did the series and we were talking about the one another's, and fix one another is not in the Bible.
Nope.
But we would like it to be there, like bear one another's burdens. We love one another. We serve one another. Yep. Like fix one another is not one of the things that, I need to remember that that's not in the New Testament. So anyway, so as we make space for people, essentially what we're talking about today is making space for wounded, sick, sore people, people who are waiting, people who have question marks in their life, like they just the unknown that you're waiting with them. And I think, especially when we're in churches that are, and in communities of people that are of different generations, there are different needs in different seasons. And sometimes I can really focus on what season I'm in. This is the need of the day. Like these are the people, my people are suffering with this. Like I was just talking to some people who are letting their kids go and like empty nest, like that's they're in that zone. And they're thinking, this is what it means for my family. This is a huge loss. Now we're empty nesters or whatever, or some people get happy about it. I don't know. But some people cry a lot about it. Yes, I don't know.
Depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation. I don't want to say.
And maybe even different child to child.
That is true. Different child to child. You're kind of there too as well. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, can you ask the Lord this week to look across generations and see, wow, there's lots of different needs. Like I was in a group with young moms this week who it's a ministry that serves young moms and a mother that has a child with a disability. Well, that need's not going to go away. Mm-mm. That's going to be something she carries in her heart, in her hands, her whole life.
Yep.
Okay, so it'd be very easy to say, well, we sent the casserole. I mean, we did the one thing.
Yeah, check.
But this is, check the box. But like, what does it look like to care for people over the long haul? I think that's what we're talking about. So let's talk about some practical ideas of what it looks like to really come alongside people, make space for them. So we're not, kind of projecting a timeline, like making space for people to share their prayer needs and actually praying with them.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, so many things. I think just if you could be empathetic, if you could use your imagination to put yourself in their shoes, what would you want? Sometimes if I'm taking a meal or maybe I just pray, like, what is it, Lord, that they really need? What would be comfort food to them? Not necessarily to me, but just let that recipe be what I grab. I think also you're just real. You don't have to be, drop the waterline on all your life, but you're real with them. I have a sweet friend that she's like my little sister. Well, maybe she's like my niece because I'm really older. But anyway, but we have that just, it's across a generation. I can't explain. We just clicked and are close. And she has said I'm her safe place to come to. And she can process anything with me. She can be ugly in front, like she can be whatever she needs to be. But on Sunday, I was about to do something in front of people, and I had done something the day before that made me insecure. Like I was like, oh, that wasn't so great. And now I want to do this so well, and I can't because I'm tired or because my brain isn't, maybe this is what they say happens in age. Oh no. Like I'm spiraling during church before I have to do this. And I just ran into her, and I just started tearing up, and she just hugged me. She said, Susan, she said two truths. Well, one was a boaster and one was a truth. One was, I always love it, whatever you say. Okay. Well, that made me feel good. But then she said the real truth that I know, but I just needed to be reminded. And plus, God's going to use it whether it's good or not. And I needed to get my eyes on the boss, not on me. And that intergenerational, like, we're the same generation in God's family because we're both at the foot of the cross. Our lives have different stories, but all those stories are desperate and need Jesus, so we can connect on that. So I think if you're trying to connect with another age group or a friend or woman you have nothing in common with, supposedly, I think that you do have desperation in common. You can always find that connection point.
I love that. Like that's exactly what we're talking about. Safe space.
Yes.
Safe space. So it could be in a hallway. Mm-hmm. It could be in a conversation. And what I want to make a point here as we kind of wrap this up is I think sometimes we think of hospitality in terms of people coming to our home. Yep. But if somebody is suffering, we have to go to them.
I love that.
We have to, and Jesus, moves in, whether he's moving through a crowd or now he goes to their house. He goes to their house. And so how can we take, whatever would be of comfort or of encouragement, and it might be food, and it might be speaking the truth in love, or it might be our presence, but it's the gift of hospitalities that we've been talking about. But how do we take it to the people? Like, how do we actually go to them? And so maybe it is you show up with, some warm soup and a loaf of bread. You've talked before about how, like, you make the big pot of soup and there's a portion, essentially you're stewarding or tithing a portion of your soup to other people. But like, that's planning ahead, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also having plastic containers in your house. Like, just grab them at the grocery store just in case you'll need them.
You will always need takeaways. Even at a dinner we did this week, people were like, I know that you always have like takeaway, so, and I loved it because I didn't know that I had the proper takeaway for them, but they wanted banana pudding, so they put it in a punch cup and they took it away. And I looked at the woman and I said, do you want to eat that on the way home? Here's a plastic spoon.
This had to be a dessert.
It was banana pudding.
Well, there you go.
A little punch cup. And she just laughed at me. She goes, how did you know? And I said, just toss it when you get home, whatever,
Yes,
exactly. So, maybe it's making an extra dozen cookies. Maybe it's going and sitting on someone else's porch.
Yeah.
And bringing the coffee. Like, hey, I'm going through the drive-through. It's moving towards people. And we see Jesus doing this all throughout the Gospels. Mm-hmm. He's moving towards people who are weak and wounded and marginalized. And so the question is, how are we asking for the heart of Christ, the eyes of Christ, and the feet of Christ to move towards people? But like, in order to see the people on the margins and to see the people who are silently suffering, we have to be proximate, and we have to actually be looking outside of our comfort zone. Like, these people are not in where we are. They're outside. And so we have to move in that direction. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just saying it's not going to be easy. It's going to be costly, and it's going to take you outside of where you're comfortable and kind of your home base.
That's right. Growing up, not growing up, my kids growing up, my dad was just a family doctor in a small town in Mississippi. And I would call him all the time because I did not want to take the kids to the doctor unless I had to. And so I go, Daddy, what do you think about this? And he'd ask all the doctor questions. And then maybe I'd call back and go, well, he's still running fever or blah. And finally he'd say, you know what they say, if in doubt, examine the patient. And so I was like, okay, enough phone medicine for now. But basically, I think we have to not assume what a woman needs. You have to be close enough, like you're saying, a proximity, to be able to examine the situation and ask God for wisdom to at least pick up on cues. Like, sometimes you just see somebody and you're like, she's been crying. And then you kind of find a moment where she may be by herself, in the restroom or, outside, I don't know. I've had that happen. And I feel like that is God giving me his eyes. Or you hear something in a conversation and you text them later going, okay, I just want to make sure you're okay. That kind of stuff. So you have to examine the friend or the stranger to know what they need. And if they're even at a point where they can receive it. And then you really got to go the long game. And the little trail of banana breads and Mexican casseroles to just kind of get them to where they go, she's caring about me. Maybe I could share, I'm struggling with this, or I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do like to assume I know what's going on until I really get close enough to go, oh, that's why she did that. That makes sense. Yeah. I was helping the wrong way.
And yeah, it's so true. We want to help people the way we think they need help or the way we like to receive help. We just we get very prescriptive very quickly. Oh, yeah. We write the prescription. But what you're saying is in order to truly care and come alongside people, we're making deposits, love deposits, the listen deposit, the food deposit, the care deposit, the long suffering deposit. And then maybe at some point you're making a withdrawal where you're speaking the truth in love, or you're asking some tough questions, but you've already made the love deposit. And so I think that that's really key in how we come alongside other people. But so making space, scooting over. When you scoot over and someone's suffering, you better make sure you're scooting over and there's a comfortable seat for that person to sit next to you, because they might sit there for a while.
You better believe it.
I mean, don't put a time limit on it.
No. And you better get to where you can have, like on the airplane where you put the armrest down. You got to have a little bit of a boundary so you can tend to your other priorities that are really, it is such a dance. Yeah. It is such a dance of, I want to help, or maybe I don't want to help because I'm scared I'm going to get overtaken and not tend to my job, my boss's needs too. I mean, I'm being paid to do like all the things, children, whatever. So that little armrest helps me when I'm traveling, just to say, here is a clear boundary. But we're very close in proximity. You're kind of like, there's a stranger, I'm touching his hands, blah. Yeah. But yeah. And I think the other thing is that I had discovered, like I would go around, one of my favorite things is talking about this, how the church or women's ministry in particular can get a comfortable seat for people to come in. What are the chocolates? What are the clean sheets? What are the signals that say this is a comfortable space, even if you are suffering? And that can be how you give illustrations, how the teachers teach, or is it all a seminary class, or is it real life illustrations or things that communicate we're people, fellow strugglers, things like that. I love talking about that. But I started realizing, and I would say things that I think, because a lot of these are churches that are have a very uniform demographic. Well, I'd start saying, what are you going to do, especially women's ministry and the women, you're training to be gospel, ambassadors. What if a new woman and her lesbian partner drop off their 3 kids at VBS because they don't know that, they just see free childcare? Are y'all going to be able to handle that? And then I started going, no lesbian couple in their right mind are going to come to any of our churches. That's too big a ask for them because they know they're not included or appreciated. And I'm not saying that is not a sinful lifestyle. I'm saying that they are people, and they are the ones that are isolated when it comes to gospel community. That should not be so. We see Jesus reaching out so many times to sinful women. And so why are we not okay with that? And we tend to, because it makes us uncomfortable. So I just your point of sometimes we got to go out of our comfortable zone into where they're comfortable. That's why if you only have rubbed shoulders with people just like you that go to your church, there is some hospitality taking that is not happening.
That is correct. Yes. And it's really the idea of like Rosario Butterfield putting the picnic table in the front of her house.
Yes.
Like people weren't comfortable completely coming in the house, but they would eat in the yard. And so finding that space that's in between, where you can begin to engage in a relationship with them. So I don't think, friend, you're going to have to look too far.
Nope.
To find someone who is suffering.
Yeah.
In fact, I dare say you'll probably see them today as you listen. If you will ask the Lord to give you his eyes and his ears to listen. And then, and we're praying that the Lord will also give you his feet to move towards them. Take my life and let it be my eyes, my ears, my feet, my heart, all of those things, so that we can be consecrated and living for him. So today has been a little bit of a tough topic, but we hope that you will come back next week. We'll talk about the welcome of the gospel, how it keeps the main things, because I want to get on the other things. I want to get on my things, but how about the main things, Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll come back next Tuesday.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Encourage podcast, where we have one aim, to bring the hope of the gospel to the hearts of women. We invite you to share this episode with a friend and keep the conversation going. And would you also consider giving to CDM to make this podcast available to women all over the world? The Encourage podcast is a production of CDM, the discipleship ministry of the PCA.